With one of the most stacked out team lists the ESL Prem has ever seen, Week 1 got underway with Misfits Academy facing off against Nerdrage. Misfits drafted a solid late game comp with immense global pressure, whilst Nerdrage opted for a comp designed to enable early to mid game engages with picks like Ashe, Alistar and Jarvan. The question was whether or not Nerdrage could create a goal gap big enough to prevent Misfits from getting into their groove, or if Misfits would just roll over an arguably weaker opponent with a draft designed to counter Nerdrage's strengths. The early game was all about Bimbo's constant pressure into KVO's jungle. Not only did this limit Jarvan's potential early impact, it meant Misfits could establish vision control to keep track of where he was. Special was happy to trade blows with Krogsen, knowing that his jungler had river pressure and that there would be no nasty surprises. This culminated in a play in the mid lane where Bimbo used KVO as a stepping stone to secure first blood onto Krogsen's Corki. It wasn't until just before the 10-minute mark that Nerdrage finally found some space to make use of their comp strengths. With Special on low HP and the Gangplank ult being forced out, Nerdrage were granted a brief window of no real global pressure. The Misfits bot lane secured a kill onto Snuggly under tower, but the over-aggression would cost them in the end. KVO and Governor moved towards the bot lane, and with the Ashe ult managed to catch the Kog'Maw completely out of position. Prosper managed to make his getaway, but the attention that he drew from Camille and KVO gave Chrisberg enough time to drop Ashe to a level that he could trade a kill with his passive. But of course, Misfits weren't happy with that, and Bimbo struck once more in the mid lane. We saw Nerdrage's Ashe Alistar level 6 combo come into play a few times, but Prosper's Shen pick essentially denied any follow-up damage. As a famed shot caller in the UK scene, it comes as no surprise that his plays are just as confident as his calls, as he smoothly evades a 3-man attempt onto his life. As you'd expect, both mid laners began moving towards the fight, but Bimbo could not be ignored. Well, the Flash could be. Prosper and Chrisberg had managed to turn a 2v3 on its head, so all that remained was for Bimbo and Special to make their entrance and clean up the stragglers from that fight. Nerdrage knew that the Cog would ultimately be the bane of their existence if they couldn't start shutting him down. Governor sacrificed his top tower in a bid to get his team back into the game, but Misfits have begun hitting their item spikes and react to Nerdrage's play in style. They lose Chrisberg, but take 2 towers and their second Mountain Drake of the game, a worthwhile trade any day of the week. It was evident that after several failed plays, Nerdrage were desperate for a fight to go their way, and as always, Chrisberg was the target. This was Krogsen's first package play of the game, but the lack of respect for Special's Galio cost them dearly, losing 4 members with minimal effort required from Misfits. It was a familiar feeling for Governor, as the last man left alive for his team, but that wasn't to be for long. With both inhibitors falling shortly after his eventual death, the curtain was closing on Nerdrage's dreams of causing an upset, and Misfits were looking as dominant as many had expected.
In just under 23 minutes, it's going to be pretty easy with Governor eventually falling down, Shen getting another ace to his, the final kill in the ace. They're onto the inhibitor turrets, they're going to be onto the inhibitors. Honestly, I think this is Misfits Academy's game, and not a huge amount that, Nerdrage can do about it.
This game hadn't been all about the action though. We mentioned earlier how much vision control Bimbo had inside KVO's red jungle, and that didn't let up all game long. They decided the final nail in the coffin would be the Baron, and with 3 members keeping the heat on the Nerdrage lineup, Prosper and Chrisberg started it up. With 2 waves of super minions pouring into the base, Nerdrage was stuck between a rock and a Misfits frontline. This really was the story of the game. Nerdrage wanted to act, but Misfits denied every single opportunity. Despite there being literally no opposition for the Baron, Bimbo 100% had to flash smite it. Just in case, of course. It turns out they wouldn't need it as a fight broke out pretty much straight away with Special leading the charge. Nerdrage did what they could to deter the attackers, but when a team is 18,000 gold in the lead, there really isn't much that you can do. In summary, the game went the way that many had expected. Misfits showed total dominance, and that there was a reason why many had coined them to be the top team in the Prem. Excellent shot calling from Prosper, a profound understanding of their win conditions, and some fantastic early pressure from Bimbo resulted in a relatively easy win and an explosive start to the ESL Premiership.